Moving on then to composting as the next solution. This is ranked at number 60 with a potential to save 2.28 gigatons of CO2 by 2050, and the net cost is at negative 63.7 billion. So you would actually make money out of composting the waste, organic part of the waste, and net savings are at minus $60.8 billion as well. This is one image of composting. There are many ways, many approaches to doing this, like vermicomposting, for example. There are many cities like Seattle or Copenhagen and so on, which are very strict on composting, and you will get fined if you don't do composting of the organic part of your waste. And this is a large-scale composting of household green waste in the UK. So UK continues to lead on many progressive climate action ideas. Looking at this EPA website list on the benefits of composting, there are a number of benefits to compost that not everyone is aware of. Some examples are listed below, so this is not even an exhaustive list. Nonetheless, organic waste in landfills generates methane, a potent greenhouse gas. By composting wasted food and other organics, methane emissions are significantly reduced, obviously. Compost reduces and in some cases eliminates the need for chemical fertilizers. So that's great for soil health as well, and yields, and water quality and air quality. Compost promotes higher yields of agricultural crops. Compost can help aid reforestation, wetlands restoration, and habitat revitalization efforts by improving contaminated, compacted, and marginal soils. So degraded lands can be recovered, which is one of our action items as well under drawdown. Compost can be used to remediate soils contaminated by hazardous waste in a cost-effective manner. Okay, so remediate soil contaminated by hazardous waste. Compost can provide cost savings over conventional soil, water, and air pollution remediation technologies where applicable. Compost enhances water retention in soils. Soil carbon, soil health, and water retention go together, and microbial life as well as carbon sequestration. Compost provides carbon sequestration, and that's just confirming what I just said. Looking at some data, annual municipal solid waste generated per capita, kilograms per capita per day. You can see the global maps. Higher the GDP, rich countries have higher waste per capita greater than 1.5 kilograms per capita per day. Poorer countries have much smaller amounts, 0.5 to 0.99 over India and many of the other countries in the neighborhood. This should be Iran. For whatever reason, these countries have even lower waste generation, maybe just poverty. And you can see the contrast here, and so on. So obviously there is a relation between GDP and waste generation and consumption levels as well. If you look at some trends in municipal waste, the way they are treated, landfilling has been a big chunk of it since 1995. It's reduced quite a bit, but still you can see that a lot of it is still in landfills. And if you go to composting, which is down here, it is seeing some increase over these 22 or so years, but still it's a small fraction of the total waste that is generated here. Okay, so that's 520 kilograms per habitant over here in the OECD report, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, right? As for future projections, this is from the World Bank report, which looks at millions of tons per year of waste generated by regions, so Middle East and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, East Asia and Pacific, and North America. So surprisingly, Sub-Saharan Africa is projected to have a much higher waste generated in 2050. Why that is has to be figured out. It is lower as expected than the richer countries in 2016 or even 2030. So for whatever reason, the projections show it as pretty high. Maybe lack of climate action, lack of composting, lack of recycling, lack of garbage collection, and so on. Whereas the richer countries are expected to reduce their footprint in terms of waste generation, whereas South Asia is still bad. East Asia and Pacific are the highest, even in 2016, and continuing to increase into 2050. In summary, in 2015, an estimated 38% of food waste was composted in the United States, 57% was composted in European Union. If all lower income countries reached the US rate and all higher income countries achieved the EU rate, composting could avoid methane emissions from landfills equivalent to 2.3 gigatons of carbon dioxide by 2050. The total excludes additional gains from applying compost to soil. Compost facilities cost less to construct but more to operate, which is reflected in the financial results. So essentially transporting it, handling it, managing it, operating it, and then transporting it back out to the fields and wherever they are going to be used has higher cost in terms of operations than to just construct the machines to handle and compost the organic waste. I'm not being very rigorous on the cost calculations because the model is kind of complicated and the scenarios used are kind of complicated, but you just get a relative sense of the costs in each case and then keep that in mind as we go forward.